Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Insurance Toolkits lead training. This is the second part to the script series. So if you guys haven't watched it, we have a part 1 video that we posted not too long ago that covers the script you're going to use on the phone to set the appointment when you guys receive leads. And then today's video is part 2, which is going to be the in-home presentation. More or less a guideline and a good script to follow when you are face-to-face with the client, whether that be in person, over the phone, or through Zoom if you guys do that sort of telesales or virtual sales. So typically, when working leads, of course, the most important part is getting that appointment booked, but it doesn't end there, right? Once you get to the client's house, you have to see that appointment and follow it through to get the close and get that business and get the cash flow rolling. So before we get into this in-home presentation, guys, I did want to preface one thing. We've got to the client's house, we've knocked on the door, the appointment's been set. Rapport is a very, very important aspect to any professional face-to-face job, but especially in insurance and especially in insurance sales, right? Or especially in any type of sales industry, but specifically when you're with insurance and you're face-to-face and you are meeting clients at their home, on their turf, and they're going to feel they're going to feel that somebody's coming into their space. They're not going to be comfortable. They're going to be a little bit walls up. Rapport is incredibly important to get those walls broken down, to have that open communication, to have them, trust you and feel that you are there to serve them in their best interest, right? But we want to make sure that we're not talking ourselves out of the sale or talking ourselves out of the confidence or talking ourselves out of the trust. Meaning, we want to keep the rapport simple and sweet. 1 to 3 minutes. Don't overdo it. Don't just say 1 or 2 words. Acknowledge what you see at their house. Maybe they got some nice landscaping, some pictures on the wall of their grandkids. Whatever the case may be, acknowledge that, but make sure that you continue to recognize, just like we did on the phone script, that you are a licensed professional and you are an insurance agent in these clients' home, probably one of the first people to ever be in their home to discuss this, and you're going to be helping them cover what's most likely going to be the biggest piece of their financial household, which is going to be their life insurance policy, right? Typically, they're going to be covering their mortgage, their income, their debt, their kids going to college, leaving income behind for their wife, leaving legacy money, any sort of medical bills outstanding. All of these things you're going to be protecting as an agent. So build the rapport, but keep it short, keep it sweet. Get them to laugh a couple times, get them to smile a couple times. Some may be harder than others. But we got to keep that conversation short and direct them to the kitchen table. And now we are sitting there face to face with our client, a few minutes of rapport building, and they're a little more open to hearing what you have to say. Now, getting into the script here, there's going to be 5 parts. The first part, and you could look at this more as a guideline rather than a script, because I personally believe, like I had mentioned in the previous video, this October, November will be coming up on my 8th year in the insurance industry as an agent in the field. I've done telesales, I've done face-to-face, I've done the agency side, and for me personally, this is the script and kind of the format that I've followed the most, that I've had the most success with. So the first part of this 5-part program, when you're doing the presentation, rather, is the why am I here? This is the most crucial, instrumental piece to your success, is figuring out the reason why you're in the client's home and why they submitted that request for life insurance. That conversation would look like this. John, beautiful home, thanks for having me here. Take your briefcase, set on the table. Don't open your binder. Don't open the sales binder. Don't open the pamphlets and the documents and the papers you brought. Just leave all that to the side. I cross my hands and I say, John, Mary, I see requests come in for life insurance for many, many different reasons. And I want to make sure that I'm giving you my complete undivided attention today in this meeting. Can you please let me know what was the reason that you submitted life insurance request? A better question would be, John, why am I here today? And then I'm pausing, right? I'm looking over there because I want you guys to kind of see how it is for me when I'm in the field. And I'm looking at my client and I'm addressing them. I'm saying their name. I'm saying her name. I'm saying his name. I'm saying both of their names depending on how you set the meeting. And I need to get the answer. So you're going to get some smokescreen answers, right? When I say smokescreen, I mean you're going to get the, I don't even remember what I filled out, or I was just trying to see what I could get, or I'm not sure, something popped up on my screen on Facebook, and you're going to get those, and that's okay. That's to be expected. Don't let that throw you off. Don't let that break down your confidence. Say, okay, John, for sure, I can understand that. Mary, you guys were just kind of looking to see what you could get. I'm kind of looking for the deeper answer here. Typically, when people submit a request for life insurance, it's because they have kids that they want to protect. They got a husband or wife, like you guys here today, that they want to make sure are protected, taken care of, and financially sound upon their passing. Maybe you have some outstanding medical debts, maybe a mortgage. You might even just want to leave some money to their friends and family, right? Cover some burial insurance, different things of that sort. So, John, Mary, what's the reason that I'm here today? And I'm looking at both of them, I'm addressing them, I'm making eye contact, and I'm doing these things that we know. As I mentioned in the first video, sales is very psychological, so there is a psychological element to it. We want to make sure that we're addressing our clients, we're saying their name. Don't say their name every other sentence, but let them know that you know who they are, that you're confident, and that you're there to do a job. The reason that this is the most important part of the presentation is because the why and the reason, and you have to dig for it. If they don't give it to you right up front, they're not going to say, oh yeah, here's 1,000 reasons why I want you to be here today. A lot of them are going to be standoffish. You might get some of those golden clients that we call that give you everything you want the first time you ask. But unfortunately, that's not the perfect world that we live in all the time. So you're going to have to dig for the why. Dig for the why, dig for the why, dig for the why. When you find those reasons, remember those and hold on to those, because as you get pushback, rebuttals, those sorts of things throughout the rest of the presentation, guys, that's going to be the ammunition that you're going to be able to reflect back on and say, John, I can understand, but if you remember in the beginning, we talked about A, B, C, X, Y, Z, 1, 2, 3, right? We talked about all these things that were very important to you, and you can reflect back to the why to sort of guide yourself back on track. So I don't want to overemphasize the first part, but it is incredibly crucial. And when I was an agent, especially my first 2 or 3 years, that was the part that I lacked on the most. When I really set the time aside to specifically focus on digging for the why, I won't go 5-10 minutes on the rapport, but I'm willing to go 5 or 10 minutes on the why, because that's the reason that I'm there. That's going to be the golden ticket to me getting that application signed. The next part of the presentation that I'm recommending, that I like to use, that works for me, of course you guys are free to use whatever works for you, is letting the client know who I am, why I'm here, and the carriers that I represent, and what I'm going to do for them. This part is important as well, because you know why you're here. When that's done, thank you, John. That makes sense. You want to protect your family. You want to make sure that your wife has income upon your passing. The unfortunate reality is, John, passing away is not a matter of if, it is a matter of when. I do commend you for getting this taken care of today, right? We're having that psychological back and forth, and you're admiring them for having you out to their home, and you're making them feel that they're doing a good thing, because they are. Now, John, enough about you, right? And you try to get them to laugh. I want to let you know who I am, kind of what I do, what I represent. And you guys will notice that I'm trying to make sure I'm addressing both parties. Don't just focus on one person. Now, it's very common in sales that you want to focus on the decision maker. You want to find the decision maker. But it's very, very helpful when both parties are on board. Oftentimes, you'll see if the husband's ready to go and he makes the decisions, but the wife is very, very, very hesitant, that could cause the sale to be closed. Maybe the wife is incredibly on board and she's the decision maker, but the husband wants no part of this. That could be a very hard close. Making them both feel heard, making them both feel that you're addressing them and they're equal in this decision is very, very important to the sales process. So, second part, John, that makes sense. Now I understand why I'm here. So, a little bit about myself. As I told you guys on the phone, my name's Colton. I am the life benefit coordinator here in Palm Beach County, or whatever county you're from. And I represent a lot of different insurance carriers. I always recommend that you guys have some pictures, some logos in your sales binder of the carriers you represent. Not all of them, but maybe 5 or 10 of them. AIG, Mutual of Omaha, Gerber, Forrester, some of the big names that they can look at, Aetna, and they can see the familiar logos that they've seen on TV. Even if you don't write through every single one of those carriers, it's nice to have that commonality that they can say, oh, I've seen that company before. You start to get that natural trust. So my name is Colton, like I said. I represent the Life Benefit Coordination Office here for Palm Beach County. They have me coming out to meet with people just like you who are interested in protecting their families. This is going now into part 3. How this is going to work is I'm just going to get to know you guys a little bit. I'm going to ask you some questions about your personal life, some goals that you guys have, some financial stuff that you guys are going on through now, some income, what you guys want to protect, get a little more detailed than what we talked about in the beginning. Go over some medical questions and things of that sort. What we're going to do after that is once we've established what you have, what you want to protect, and what you're willing to sacrifice for that, I'm going to show you guys the top carriers or insurance companies in this case that are going to offer you the best, effective, most cost-efficient protection for both you and your wife, that your kids are protected come your passing. What we're going to do today, it won't cost you anything, and I always emphasize that. It's not going to cost you anything today, but at the end of this meeting, we are going to take that information that we collect. We're going to submit a simple request for coverage off to the insurance carrier, a note to add here. We don't want to say the word contract. We don't want to say application. We don't want it to sound too formal. We don't want them to be pushed back and hesitant that you're going to ask for all their personal information. Just let them know, hey, at the end of this meeting, we're going to submit a request for coverage. In a couple days, one of the insurance companies that we applied for or that we reached out to or that we requested coverage from is going to give me a call back and say, Colton, we're going to give John exactly what you guys asked for. We can come back at that time, and then that's where we can discuss the financial aspect and how much you want to pay. We'll cover some rough numbers today so you guys have an idea, but I don't want you guys thinking that you're locked into any sort of commitment, whether that be a 6 month, a year, month to month. I want you guys to get the information that you requested. The financial stuff we can worry about tomorrow. Does that make sense? So the reason I say it like that is we don't want to make the client believe that we're going to come to their house, ask for their social, their driver's license, their bank account, charge $300 to their checking account, and then leave. We want to make sure that they're getting the information that they feel they requested. And of course, once we get to the application and we start running through quotes, we're going to discuss numbers, we're going to discuss monthly premiums, we're going to discuss these things. But regardless of whether what I'm saying is true or not, even though it is, we want the client to know that when I submit that request for coverage off, they do have a choice, right? They do have a choice to say, hey, listen, I do not want that coverage. That's too expensive. I prefer to go with option 2. Or they could say, you know what, let's bump it up a little bit. I could see some having a little more coverage than what we applied for today. So these conversations can go different ways. And I'm trying to keep this, as brief as I can to not overwhelm you guys. But we want to basically set out what we're going to be doing. My name's Colton. This is who I work for. This is the company I represent. Part 3, I'm going to ask you some questions. I'm going to talk about some medical information that I'm going to ask you guys some more. I'm going to look at some financial goals that you have and what you're willing to protect. Once I have all that information, that's enough data for me to show you guys some of the companies that will protect you, giving you the best rates, the most cost-effective coverage, and it's going to make sure that you guys and your family is taken care of. And I'm addressing both the parties. And I'm using the word request for coverage because in essence, that's what it is. We can submit the application off. But if you aren't using a platform like ours, Insurance Toolkits, a lot of times you're going to be left just to wonder. You hope that it gets approved, which is why a company like us at Insurance Toolkits comes into place because we do full pre-qualification. We're the #1 quoting and underwriting software for point of sale in the country. So using a software like us, you can then, right in front of the client, type in their information, their personal information, their medical information, some of the medications they're taking, and then you can obviously run the quotes for based off of the financial liabilities that they have that they want protected. So when you're running quotes and you're face-to-face with this client, you know who's going to approve them because you use a software such as ours at Insurance Toolkits, and then you can submit that request for coverage off. You know it's going to get approved because we've already pre-qualified them. So when you wake up that following morning and you get that email from Gerber, Mutual of Omaha, AIG, whoever it is, saying congratulations, John and Mary have been approved as applied for, you can call John back that following day and say, John, congratulations. Option 2 that we went with for the $25,000 for $100 a month. Congratulations, Mutual of Omaha approved you on that policy. You'll see that a first draft come out within the next 2 to 3 business days. Do you have any questions for me? And then you kind of move on that way. And if you do get, obviously rebuttals happen and people change their mind. But I personally feel that when you're getting the close when you go into this third part, which is asking the client the questions, letting them know what you're going to do, and you are telling them the first 10 minutes of the meeting, we're going to submit a request for coverage at the end of this meeting, and I'm going to verify that you have an active bank account and a valid driver's license in the United States, and we're going to submit that request for coverage off to these different carriers that I represent. Once you've gotten past that third step, you've already closed that deal. Now you just have to follow suit with what you said and what you promised. You're going to go through your financial inventory, depending what IMO you're with. Some people call it a financial inventory. Some people call it a financial worksheet. Some people call it a fact finder. whatever those set of questions that you ask in that document that you're filling out, asking the client questions, going over their income, date of birth, their kids. Different IMOs have different things, so I don't want to favor any one over the other. But whatever you guys are using to kind of collect that data, you're going to go through that set of the process. And then when you get to the application, right, we know it's an application with Mutual Omaha because we've ran the quotes. The client's not going to be thrown off when you ask them to go get their a blank check, or when you ask for their driver's license for the request for coverage, because you already told them that 20 minutes ago. Now, yeah, you get the anomaly cases of the clients who are a little bit standoffish and may not be completely comfortable with it. That's just the name of the game. That's just sales in general. That's human nature. But the better you get at these scripts and the better you get at these being conversations, which is why I personally I don't like to use the word script per se, because I know each conversation is different from the next. I like to word it that you have to have 4 to 5 bullet points of information that you cover every single meeting, regardless of the client, regardless of the situation. But those filler words are what change because we are truly customizing it to the client that we are with face to face. So again, steps 2, 3, and 4. Step 2 is who you are, what you represent, the carriers, and so forth. That third step is asking, letting the client know how the meeting is going to go, what questions you're going to ask, how you're going to ask them, that you're going to submit their request for coverage. Step 4, which is where Insurance Toolkits would come in, is when you're going to take that information that you collected and run the quotes, take care of the underwriting, see which carriers that they qualify for, talk a little bit more about the monthly premium and kind of how that's going to look for them financially. That conversation could say, depending on what you're doing, some agents like to do the 3-option closed or a bronze, silver, gold. So if you go through your financial inventory with your client and you see that they're wanting to make sure their funeral is protected and leave some money for their wife, maybe you're going to get them a $40,000 final expense policy. The funeral was $10,000. You want to leave $30,000 for the wife. You would show maybe a $15,000, $25,000, and $35,000 quote to the client and say, John, Mary, here's 3 different plans. One of them $60 a month for $10,000. One of them $80 a month. One's $110. I typically like to start with something. We don't always have to max it out in the beginning. I do want this to be comfortable for you guys on a recurring basis, because if you can't afford it, it's not going to be there when you need it, right, guys? You're getting that agreement. You're letting them know that you kind of understand the grit and the pain that it can be to sometimes go through some financial struggles. If we can't afford this, it's not going to be there when we need it. You know what I mean? So we can start off with the second option to make sure you guys have something when we submit this request for coverage off, given that they even approve you, because again, we do have to qualify for this. Not everybody does. I'll give you a call back. If you want to bump it up, great, but I think it's probably best if we leave it at the second option. Do you guys agree? And then you're actually getting the close in that moment. And then step 5 is you're submitting the request off. You're at that point just talking about anything but the application. Talk about the children, talk about the grandchildren, talk about the TV, talk about the paint on the walls. Get their mind on anything but the application, because we don't want the questions and the concerns and all the rebuttals start coming in. We've done what we're supposed to do. We've introduced ourselves. We found the why. We let them know who we are, what we represent. We told them what we're going to do. We've gone through the financial inventory. We've ran the quotes, and now we're at the application, which doesn't require them, or it doesn't require any of their involvement. You just have to start typing information: their driver's license, address, email, date of birth, account number, routing number, run through the underwriting questions and all that stuff on the e-app. But because you guys are using Insurance Toolkits, you know that they're going to get approved. So we want to make sure that we're getting through that e-app as quick as we can. Obviously, without being, losing any details and without being inaccurate, of course. And then once that application, you get to the end of it and you submit it, because again, you guys are using Insurance Toolkits, you know that they're going to get approved unless they didn't tell you something, of course, or something comes up on their record that they may have forgotten about. But at that point, you submit the application, you thank them for the time, and then you leave. So I know we're coming up here on almost 20 minutes, so I want to keep this short. So just as a quick little recap, you get to the house, you knock on the door, 1 to 3 minutes of rapport. John, Mary, I see people request life insurance for many different reasons. I need to know why I'm here today, guys. Why did you guys submit a request for life insurance? You're asking for the why. Part 2, my name's Colton. I work for the Palm Beach County Life Benefit Coordination Office, whatever county you're in. Maybe you guys are doing health meetings. You can say health. I'm with the Miami-Dade State Department for Health Insurance, whatever location you guys are in, of course. I represent these different companies across the country. It could even be a good point to say, I represent the best carriers in all 50 states. Really get them to have that trust built in you and realize that you are the only option. This is what we're going to do for you today, guys. I'm going to ask you some questions. I'm going to go over some of your personal and financial goals. We're going to talk about some of your medical history. And then at the end, of course, you have to qualify for some protection. We're going to submit what's called the request for coverage off. Don't worry, you're not going to get charged anything today. We're going to submit that request for coverage off to a couple of different companies. Whatever one comes back and approves you, I will give you a call. We can discuss the financial stuff at that time. Writing portion of the meeting, you're running the quotes, taking care of the underwriting, you're using insurance toolkits, all that fun stuff. And then you get to the application, you follow the app or the link in insurance toolkits that takes you right to the e-app. You submit it, you shake their hand, you move on, and you're just collecting checks, right? That's the goal here. So of course, your fiduciary responsibility as an agent is to always do what's in best interest of the client, and that's what we at Insurance Toolkits pride ourselves on. When you guys are running quotes, we're always going to optimize the best fit for the client, so you guys can always know that you are giving them the best business, the best carrier, the best price. You're not going to be writing bad business. So I know that's a lot. I know that can be overwhelming. It's a very repetitive process that you will start to see. The more meetings you go on, the more your presentation will become comfortable. But like I said, those 5 bullet points, which if you guys would like me to send those to you in a little more detail, you can send me an email. My email is in the description box below, and I'm more than happy to send you this outline of the presentation. But like I said, I don't like to refer to it specifically as a script because I do know that each client and each situation is unique, but rather 4 to 5 bullet points and sort of a progression we want to follow throughout the presentation to make it seem more natural, more accommodating to the average person. And then from there, just continue to repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. I'm sure you've upline said it. I'm sure you've watched other YouTube videos of other agents saying it and other trainers saying it. Repetition will be the key to this business. If you want to get better at the phones, pick up the phones and start dialing. You want to get better at closing, set more appointments. You want to get better at the presentation, present more. This is a very easy business to be successful in as long as you follow the steps. We have tons of videos, we have tons of podcasts, tons of interviews on our page here. You guys can scroll through days and days and days of watchable footage. So I hope that helps you guys today. Again, this was part 2 of the script series, the in-home presentation. Of course, there's many different variations. There's many different words and word choices that you guys can use. These were just my preferences and what the partners that I've worked with and the agents that I've had, what's been successful for us as well as many others. So thank you guys for watching. Have a great evening and happy selling.